Good evening and welcome back to the July 3rd regular council meeting. We took a brief recess and we are back now. We've discussed a couple of things as far as procedure going forward, and I think I'm hoping that someone is going to put a motion on the floor so we can discuss something concerning the regular meeting and what we're doing. Councillor Wagoner.
I would move that we defer the public meeting and go in camera to discuss items related to FOIP, and that we extend the meeting till 10:30. Oh.
Thank you, Your Worship. My understanding is that council actually wanted to recess and not go in camera. So we'll just need to withdraw that motion if that's still the...
All right, I withdraw it, and I move that we defer the public meeting, go in recess, and then come back to the public meeting after a recess is over. And I would like to move that we extend the meeting till 10:45.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Discussion on this motion, Deputy Mayor Wiley.
Sure. It went exactly as I thought it would before we went into our 8-minute recess. There was going to be two motions made by Councillor Montgomery that he'd informed us of prior to the meeting, and we were all expecting. And then we had an 8-minute recess, and now we've come out of the 8-minute recess, and now we're calling a 1-hour recess. And these motions aren't going to get made, because then at the end of it, we'll say, well, it's too late.
Well, I don't think we know what'll happen later, but yeah, there was,
I guess I'm just making a prediction. So no, I will not be supporting this. I would like to continue with the agenda and hear Councillor Montgomery's motions.
Understood. Councillor Montgomery, did you have a comment?
Yeah, so I don't see why I can't make my motions for administration to provide some budget implication and information about the lodge and hospice projects. I don't think those are controversial, so I can't see why anybody on this council would not want administration to provide us just a report on the budget implications, even to prove my presentation wrong. That was done at the beginning of June. So I think it'd probably be a good idea just to continue on with the agenda.
I don't think you should make the connection that we're trying to stop you from anything. It's just what's the best use of our time and what's the best use of our consultant who's being paid for tonight, who could be doing a presentation to us. So I would be careful. I wouldn't try to link the two.
I didn't make any sort of any comments about intent. I just said that I think that it'd be good to just continue so I can make those motions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peterson?
Yeah, I agree, Your Worship. We will be able to continue tonight and hear Councillor Montgomery's motions, but in the meantime, we will recess so that we can utilize this consultant this expert that we've brought in at our request to hear this information, and that will be a good fiscal decision for us, and as well it will help us get the information, and we will still be ensured that we will hear Councillor Montgomery's motions.
Thank you. As far as myself goes, I'm going to go along with Deputy Mayor and Councillor Montgomery. Just the fact that I think we should discuss these two motions, put them to bed one way or the other. And I realize it's going to be a bit more money with our consultant here, and I apologize. You may have to sit here longer. I don't know what the vote will be, but I'd like to just not once and for all, it'll raise its head again, but to carry on with Councillor Montgomery's motions coming forward. That's just my thoughts. Any other comments? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Nay.
And the motion is defeated. So we're going to go on to Councillor Montgomery's motions. Councillor Montgomery?
Yes, thank you very much for Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. As I said, like I don't kind of think these are kind of really controversial, so I'll do it quickly. So I guess I'll make two separate motions. The first motion is the council direct administration to produce a report of the potential budget implications of the lodge and hospice in the first 5 years of operation, based on the information from the WHMB's consultant's forecast, where the lodge takes 3 years to fill, and under the assumption that the hospice does not secure provincial funding. It's if I to speak to it, it's just to get some formal, let's say, formally reported information, so that it's not left to speculation. Thank you.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
Councillor Montgomery to put both motions forward at the same time, and we can just discuss both?
I think,
Oh,
could I raise just a comment regarding that? I think if we put them both together, maybe there's the risk of them not being passed because they're
Okay,
linked,
sure.
as opposed to being separate. One might be seen as different than the other. Does that make sense? Okay. Comments or discussion on the motion that's on the floor? CAO Scoble, if I could just ask you a quick question. What is your view as far as the finance department and knowing what you know about the project forward, having your staff do this kind of a report?
Well, in reading the motion, I honestly feel it lacks some clarity, and so clarification around that. This is work that would be done by the housing management body's consultant. They're a management accounting consultant doing private sector work, so to speak. What's being asked here is for public sector financial accountants to do management accounting. I guess what could be done is if the numbers were taken to a certain point, and I don't understand how they would change from now, but if the consultant produced numbers to a certain point, like basically the final, and then our accountants could take that and translate that to the, I guess, impact per resident. But I would also remind council that this is a requisition and it's a separate item, and it has no pertaining to our budget per se. So there is no budget implications to the town because, as has been discussed fulsomely tonight, it's a requisition through the housing board, and it's a separate item on your property tax bill for the residents.
Thank you very much for that Thank you very much for that clarification. Councillor Montgomery?
yeah, thank you. So the $700,000 is not a requisition because requisitions are only for previous year's deficits. And then also the part that will be the hospice is also not going to be a requisition. And I mean, like, these numbers are pretty, I don't want to say firm, but I mean, like, the consultant has come out with some numbers. I guess I'm surprised that our administration would be balking at taking predicted numbers from a consultant and trying to determine what that will cost. I don't want to hear what's going to cost the individual taxpayer.
Sir, wouldn't there
I want to
be...
hear what
Mayor,
it's going
I have to,
cost
again,
the
there's a lot of...
hang on a second.
There's professional implications
I agree.
throughout this evening.
Councillor Montgomery, there are professional implications of our financial staff and our CAO questioning the numbers of something that's been established by experts in the field and management accountants. So there is a risk.
I'm not
there is
asking
no,
you
no,
to
let me
question
finish. Let me
anything.
finish. There is a risk to our CAO and our administration in the finance area, and I would be a little bit worried now that I've heard that from CAO Scoble.
I am not asking them to question anything or to disagree with anything. I'm asking them to take the numbers that the consultant has produced and make.
Okay, well, maybe
and then to figure out what our obligation will be based on those numbers. That's it.
Maybe you'd be better off hearing it from CAO Scoble than me.
In all my years, I have never debated with a council member, but that's where this is going, and I would prefer not to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not
Councillor
looking to debate
Peterson?
our CAO.
Your worship,
I'm just asking for a report from
I am
administration
highly
on the
distressed by the fact
implications
that
of the
we have a
budget.
council member speaking in a very derogatory fashion about our staff. And earlier in this meeting, I was called disingenuous, which is a synonym for liar. This is not the first time that both Councillor Wagner and I have been assigned this. In other forms of levels of government, Your Worship, including municipal government, when councillors make such statements, or members of parliament or members of the legislature, they're removed. They're removed from the gallery, from the room, until they are able to handle the processes that are set in front of them. I am extremely distressed that we would have a member of this council cast those aspersions. As bad, you know, Councillor Wagner and I have ignored Councillor Montgomery's comments relatively for a long time. It's immaterial, but it's a lot different situation when they attack staff.
Thank you. I
Point
would
of order,
say,
point of order.
wait a second.
Point of order, please.
I would say
Point of
that if
order.
our, Councillor Montgomery, if our CAO is expressing strong reservations about this, then I would definitely be taking his comments to heart and to pay strong attention to them. Deputy Mayor Wiley,
I said a point of order. Thank you.
what is your point of order?
I think that there's some erroneous kind of premises being put forward here. I'm not saying anything insulting about administration. I put forward a motion for administration to produce a report based on some figures that were put forward by the WHMB consultant. Okay, it's basically just math. Okay, all they have to do is take those numbers and basically divide them by the proportional share that we're being told will be our obligation. Okay,
But that's your,
there was a comment being made that these are requisitions when that is not the case. The $700,000 is not a requisition, and neither is the hospice part. Okay, and not only that, but there is budget implications for requisitions.
Councillor
Yes, it's true,
Montgomery,
they're
I have to ask you to pause because
Yeah.
you're expecting the CAO and his financial staff, you've put a motion forward, you've questioned his comments as to why he doesn't feel comfortable with that, and then you're proclaiming that he should be able to do that. CAO Scoble.
So, Councillor Montgomery, you did say balking. And I want to be very clear. I have taken, I am not a chartered accountant, but I have taken graduate management and financial accounting courses, so I understand the difference between the two. And you need to put specificity because you are asking us to make assumptions. What assumptions do you want us to make? Do you want a 20% fill rate, a 30% fill rate, a 40% fill rate?
I said to use the pro forma that takes 3 years to fill. The one that the consultant said,
Okay,
produced
well, our
where it takes 3
CAO
years
has
to
given
fill,
his opinion.
it's in the
Our
motion.
CAO, I'm going to go to Deputy Mayor Wiley.
Yeah, I'm confused why there's even debate on council about this. I just would like to know the total budget implications for the seniors lodge and hospice.
Okay. Well,
I'd
we
like-
have,
I just want to know, using the data that we have, the pro forma that we have from the lodge and from the information we've received from the hospice, what are the total budget implications? Taxpayers need to know this. There shouldn't be a debate on this.
so
I'm just
you're
confused.
saying that our CAO and his staff should have no problem
I'm not
doing
making
this?
any accusation. I'm just saying, can
No.
we just take the data from the pro forma? And can we take the information we've received in public from the hospice,
Okay.
put it together, and tell our taxpayers what are the total budget implications? That's what the motion says.
So are you suggesting that the council do that or that administration do that?
That administration compile those numbers, yes.
Even though he's explained the reasons why that is not a good thing to do. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Peterson?
I just want to say that Wheatland Housing Management Body is in the process of putting together a third fact sheet. There's been a delay on it because there is some things that need to be followed up with regards to the letters and the requisitions, but relatively soon, prior to the Class B budget being formally submitted, there will be another fact sheet going out that will be presented through Wheatland Management Body and the hospice, although the hospice, I think, already did theirs. And it will be presented by the accumulation of experts that was referenced by our CAO. It will be the architect, George Berry Architects. It will be the accountants that are on the project, the CPAs that are on the project, the engineers that are on the project, the head consultant that is on the project, Derek Weiss, and together, all of these experts that have been approved by the province and have been between them, just between our architect George Berry and Derek Weiss, between them, they've done scores, more than 20 in recent years, lodge builds in this province which have been approved by this province. And they've been absolutely sound. And so I don't know why we would put our administration in this position when the taxpayers of this Wheatland Housing Management Body have already put out hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring in the best minds, the most recognized experts in the field, ones with a proven record to put this project forward. And the numbers have come forward. When there's been changes, they've come forward. There's been complete openness to it. And so nothing of that is going to change at this point in time. The intent will be to give, in the next one, it will follow the April 18th presentation of Derek Weiss, and it will put the numbers, the current numbers, on the table. They are the numbers that our CAO gave us tonight. And so I think the best interests of this group is to not put our administration through this, to not take the time and the effort and the energy to do something that's already been done, and to simply move forward with the experts on the project on the understanding that if you still see concerns with that, I guess you're going to see concerns, but it'll be coming forward relatively soon.
My comment is that if we vote for this motion, I believe it puts our CAO and financial staff in a tenuous position, and I will not be supporting this motion, and I'd like a recorded vote. Is there any further discussion with new information or new comments to make?
Yeah, I have something to say, please.
are
First of all,
you-
like just so everybody knows, all votes are recorded. We passed a procedure bylaw amendment like about a year ago, and all votes are recorded now. So we
Okay,
can stop
thank you.
asking for recorded votes. Thank you. The other thing is that, so I'm just going to make this, I guess, like I'm speaking for the public, obviously here, because it's this is a. I'm not going to characterize what I'm dealing with here, but so. I'm very clearly just asking administration to take the numbers that were put in the pro forma from the consultant hired by Wheatland Housing. Okay, just to and he put forward 3 scenarios. Okay, one scenario was where the lodge fills up in 1 year. Another one was where it takes 2 years to fill, and then a third one where it takes 3 years to fill, where it's 50% capacity the first year, and then 75 or 80% the second year, and then 98% the third year. So I'm asking administration to take that third scenario, which some people will call worst case scenario, some people will call it, likely, because the consultant, said that there is a chance that could happen given all
Councillor
the conditions.
Montgomery,
Yeah.
we understand your motivations and what you want them to do, but the CAO has explained why he thinks.
And so
Okay,
sorry, if I
so
could.
just let me finish this part.
Well, but
If the
I was speaking and you
CAO
cut
is
me off,
saying
though.
it puts him and his staff in a risky position, and you feel it isn't, I just don't see how it can be a safe situation for us to be going down that road.
Mayor, if I might,
CAO Scoville?
so there's some personnel matters here. This needs to go in camera if council wants more information.
Yeah, so if I could finish speaking, that'd be great. Thank you. Is that okay?
I just want to point out, we haven't followed this before, but I've just been given this that section 23.5 says counselors can ask 3 consecutive questions and may ask further questions once they've had that. And that 23.6 says counselors have 5 consecutive minutes to speak. I believe we've had counselors go way beyond that tonight, and we've let it happen. I've let it happen as a chair. So if you can be incredibly brief, Councillor Montgomery, knowing what you know from the CAO.
Okay, so I don't like I said, I don't want to cast aspersions here. Okay, so I am under the impression the CAO said that that this is not that the budget, or like, let's say the costs coming as a result of the new lodge and hospice are requisitions. I believe that that's what was said. CAO Scoble, am I incorrect that you said that those are requisitions?
That's my understanding, but I'm not a Housing Act expert.
Okay. So I mean, like, Councillor Langmaid read part of the Housing Act tonight. I had the Housing Act, and again, I'm not trying to cast aspersions here. I had the Housing Act section in my presentation, section 7(1) A and B, I believe it is, but I don't have it in front of me. But basically, a requisition is for the previous year's operating losses. So it doesn't include the hospice. So I mean, like, I guess my motion would include the administration calling up the hospice and saying, hey, can you tell us how much it could possibly cost you guys to run for a year? And taking those numbers, and then, you know, knowing that we don't have an agreement with Wheatland County to split it along equalized assessment lines. So I would say, you know, we should take the, you know, a per capita split.
Councillor
so
Montgomery,
paying 2/3.
Councillor Montgomery, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Don't you think that what you're saying now is just a different way of saying that you want the CAO and his staff to do these financial numbers for you? And if that's the case, he's already expressed his reservations for him and his staff regarding that. Regardless of your reasons or explaining what you want, he's already explained that he's not comfortable in his role and his finance team doing that when experts in that field have already done things in the numbers.
But the experts are not putting forward what our share of the cost will be.
All I'm telling you is the CAO has expressed that he has strong concerns about doing this work that your motion suggests. So explaining it over and over what you want and why you want it doesn't negate the fact that he feels this is a risky thing for him and his staff to do.
Mayor, if I could help qualify too. There are,
CAO Scoble?
So I mentioned it before. There are resource constraints. I will not say any more. If you want to talk more about resource constraints, we need to go in camera.
Okay, yeah, like, you know, I'll be honest, maybe I'm misunderstanding here. Sorry. I guess, yeah, maybe it's my fault. So CAO Scoble, what risk do you see with asking the Hospice Society how much they could potentially cost for operating every year, and then figuring out our proportional share of that? If you could just explain that risk for me.
2 things. You need to give specificity, because the whole argument, quite frankly, for the last 6 months has been about exactness, and this is open to broad interpretation. Administration wants to be very, very clear what work we are doing, what assumptions we are using, so that we are not, I guess, accused of using the wrong assumptions. And secondly, there's a resource constraint that needs to be discussed in camera.
Does that help you, Councillor Montgomery?
And again, I'm not casting aspersions. I am surprised that we are not attempting, and I say we as a council are not attempting to figure out what this will cost the town, like in some sort of official way.
Yes,
put
I
forward
understand
I put
that
forward my
you,
presentation. I was told that it was wrong. Wheatland County just did a presentation. I don't know if anybody's aware of this. Wheatland County had their administration do a presentation similar to what I'm talking about, where they took the numbers from the consultant and they determined what the cost would be to their budget and then also to the taxpayers. I was just looking for something similar to that, so that like I said, if I'm wrong, if my presentation earlier in June was wrong, then great, show me that.
So again, this is a comment that I can't do the work. The Wheatland County CAO is a chartered accountant. I am a professional engineer. If you would like me to build a bridge, I will build a bridge. Would you like me to do accounting? I am not qualified to do it.
Well,
and there
no,
are
I'm not
resource
asking-
constraints.
I'm asking administration, which I guess would be one of your employees who has like some sort of financial background. That I'm not asking you, certainly.
I'm going to call the question because we've said it in a variety of different ways. He's expressed his strong concerns and misgivings about doing this kind of work. And so I'm going to call the question. We're just going round and round. And unless someone has something brand new, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the first motion of Councillor Montgomery?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is defeated. Your second motion?
Sure, thank you. So I would like to ask council, I'll move that council direct administration to report to council on the agreements related to funding obligations of the Wheatland Housing Management Body for capital projects and reserve contributions in order to provide clear details about what our proportional share of upcoming projects will look like. And I can provide clarity if there needs to be clarity on what the intent of the motion is.
I think I understand it. I'm not sure if my other councillors understand it.
Well, I'm more interested in, I just want to make sure administration understands what I'm driving at here.
I think you would like to know what our share of the project would be based on, I know you talked about it before, versus equalization assessment versus per capita. Is that where you're getting at, what our share would be in different scenarios?
I would like administration to actually get a hold of any agreements that are in existence that would spell out what our proportional share will be for the new lodge and for, for the new lodge essentially, yeah. So yes, I would like administration to actually get a hold in their hands of those agreements and then provide a report that provides clear detail about what those agreements say.
Okay, I think everyone understands what you're after in the motion.
So again, fine, I understand that, but I would not be providing a report. I would get legal counsel with the ongoing debate about stuff here. I don't think it's fair to do that to administration, to provide that type of interpretation and analysis. I would refer it to legal counsel, so you should throw $10,000 to do that in.
Oh, sorry. I just want you to actually tell me that like these agreements actually exist. That's more what I'm interested in, is actually knowing they exist. I don't need like a lawyer to parse them for me. I just want to see the agreements myself to know that they exist.
So you're not satisfied with what was said before with the ministry talking about equalized assessments?
Well, I did hear somebody from the ministry at the April 18th meeting say that Wheatland Housing Management Body can't even actually put forward, or like they can't even create a reserve without a policy in place that is agreed on by the municipalities, the member municipalities. So it's like I guess there's kind of like the more I kind of look at this situation, the more I realize that there's a lot of kind of assumptions that we're all operating under that are not actually like I've never seen any sort of paperwork to actually show that those assumptions are based in reality, and I would like to see something that just kind of some sort of hard evidence about what our potential obligations are.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or discussion? I'll call the question then. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion is defeated. We move now to councillor information and inquiries. 10.1 questions between council and or council statements.
I have some questions, please.
Okay.
Okay, so these questions are for Councillor Peterson. So the first question I have is, the WHMB consultant, Derek Weiss, provided information in his pro forma or those spreadsheets that provided information about the lodge funding, the new lodge funding. And in there it mentions that the WHMB will be contributing $800,000 towards the down payment for the new lodge. Does Wheatland Housing have that $800,000 now? And if not, where and when will it come from?
The information that I have is that under the funding sources, where is listed Wheatland Housing Management Body contribution, 0.8 million, that is funding already contributed by Wheatland Housing to date.
And sorry, where did that come from?
It came from money that Wheatland Housing had in their reserves.
Okay.
As far as I know, I would want to double check with that, but I believe that most of it came. I'm looking at the funding sources now, and as far as I understand, I'm not sure that it was in a reserve, but it came out of Wheatland Housing Management Body funds.
And your next question?
Yeah, and sorry, and what time period? So that was spent, I guess, on this like within the last couple of years.
I don't know the time period exactly.
And so that was essentially capital, like that was money that was spent on a capital project, you could say.
I do not know the answer to that.
But
it came out of Wheatland Housing Management Body funds. I would have to take time to look at it. I'm not going to debate it now.
Oh, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not asking you to debate anything. I'm just trying to figure out, because like I'm under the impression that I mean, like Wheatland Housing can only requisition for previous year's losses. So I'm wondering how they got a hold of $800,000.
Councillor Montgomery.
What's that?
As far as I'm understanding, there was no requisition on that.
Okay. And I guess I'll just ask you, do you know anything about the forgivable loan portion of the budget for the new lodge?
So the only thing that I'm prepared to say at this point is what was in the pro forma, and that is in terms of the funding sources under CMHC, CHMC, sorry, the forgivable portion in total is $3 million. And that is contingent on Wheatland Housing Management Body meeting their payments.
Okay, and so you don't know if that's paid on a yearly basis or at the end of the 10 years?
It's out every 10 years, I believe.
Okay. so it's being budgeted for on a yearly basis at $300,000 per year, which I mean, like this is, and I guess I'm not asking you this, but I'm just kind of I'm suggesting that if they're budgeting for 300,000 per year, that they're not going to get till the end of the 10 years. That could mean that there will be another $300,000 that has to be made up on a yearly basis until that 10-year period is up.
I'm not sure whether it comes, what the time frame is. What I do know is that in the last pro forma, I believe the rate was 35 years, right? It was that was the amortization period, and that the forgivable portion on the CMHC portion was $3 million. That's what I'm prepared to answer to tonight. If you have further questions, you can certainly forward them to the board chair. He would know.
Yeah, like I did ask Mr. Kester, and he told me that it was paid on a yearly basis. But
Then he would be right. Then he would be correct.
Yeah, that's just kind of surprising that they would kind of pay something on a yearly basis for something that's basically a reward for kind of being, keeping things current. But thank you. So my next question is, yeah, I guess so. With the $700,000, that's not going to be a requisition. I mean, part of it, to be frank, part of it will be a requisition, based on depending on how much the deficit is, obviously. But so for the portion of the $700,000 that's extra to the requisition, do you know what split metric will be used, whether per capita or equalized assessment?
So, Your Worship, this is one of these questions where, that I'm not prepared to answer because Councillor Montgomery is presenting a what-if scenario, and I am uncertain as to the context of the actual question. So if he wants to provide clarity around that and present it, I can certainly take it forward to the consultants for answering.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious to know, I guess, like as representatives from for the town on Wheatland Housing, how comfortable are you guys with probing the financial side of things and asking these questions, yourselves? Like when because as has been pointed out, I'm only kind of getting information here and there, I guess. But as our representatives, do you guys feel comfortable looking at something like a pro forma and then trying to ask or come up with questions about that, just so you can know, I guess, or kind of
Are you asking her if they're competent in their roles on the board as far as understanding, interpreting the pro forma?
I mean, I guess, for myself, I mean, I don't have any sort of kind of formal financial background, which is why it takes me. I don't ask questions at the actual meetings where these are being presented, because I have to kind of go afterwards and dissect it myself, I guess, and then try to make sense of it. But I find that I'm asking questions. I'm coming up with questions that I would hope that our representatives would be kind of also interested in, or interested in finding out the answer to, or recognizing that there's some clarity that needs to be provided on these parts of this information. And like I don't kind of question their passion for the project, but yeah.
So
I guess
your
like,
question is, are they comfortable reading the pro forma and understanding it? Is that it?
Well, no, it's sorry. Like, I guess, yeah, I guess I'm just kind of like, I'm wondering if they're comfortable. Yeah, like, I guess, you know, I'm not saying necessarily understand them, but as I kind of mentioned before, like, you know, even as lay people, when you look at these things, you know, are these questions that are occurring to you guys, and are you guys, you know, trying to find the answers to these as well? Yeah, that's.
I guess you're coming in with the assumption that they're not comfortable with the answers they've been given or the information they've been given, so they should go searching for answers. But if they're comfortable with the pro forma and what's been told to them by the experts, maybe they wouldn't have the desire to go looking because they feel like they've been given the proper information by the experts. Councillor Peterson.
So my answer to that, Your Worship, I think, is that if Councillor Montgomery had been present or if he watched the meetings, you'd see countless questions asked, and the building committee also meets regularly. The building committee meets in camera for obvious reasons, and in terms of protection of the project and protection of the people working on the project. Prior to every meeting, board members of Wheatland Housing can come, are encouraged to come early to the meeting to see the breakdown of anything new that's happened with regards to the build to a level of precision that is unknown to me and other building projects that I've been a part of, and I've been a part of several. And so that is one aspect. In the actual rolling out of the Lodge project and the estimated costs, that those hundreds of thousands of dollars that our ratepayers have paid to bring this project to a Class B project has checks and balances. And so we do have an architectural firm with many experts on the project. Then we have people who are CPAs that are involved in the project. And then we have engineers that contribute to all of that information. And then we have Derek Weiss and his team of consultants. So there are checks and balances all the way through. And so, you know, that's why you see corrections, you see shifts. We've had members, Councillor Wagner included, bring forward questions of concern and clarification to this project. So, you know, I guess, you know, you say you don't mean to cast aspersions, but it seems a strange question to ask. So, you know, the numbers that are in my head, you know, the cost of the land is 1.4 million, the construction labor are 48 million, the soft costs are 2.7 million, the financing is 0.5 million, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment are 1.5 million, the contingency we have is 6 million. You heard the same numbers tonight from CAO Scoble. The total amount is 59.9 million. So those are the numbers that are in my head, and in that, I know exactly what I'm going to pay as a taxpayer on this pro forma. And so in the rollout of the next section of the report, I'm hoping that every single taxpayer in our community will be able to use that formula to be able to know exactly on a given scenario, on those ones that you spoke to, what it would cost them on their tax line from the requisition perspective in their tax form. And so at this point in time, I think that I am more than satisfied. And I think, you know, I've said it around the table at Wheatland Housing. You know, at some point, you either trust the experts that you've brought in or you don't. But I trust them, and I trust them implicitly. I trust them based on their past experience. I trust them based on their current experience. I trust them based on the fact that they've brought project after project after project across to the finish line, and that on those projects that are functioning today, they're functioning, with maximum efficiency. They're doing very well. Seniors in those communities have places to live. Trochu was the latest one that got that. And so I have no concerns. I do think, as you pointed out, that lay people getting into this mix is not sensible and not rational, and that it creates a lot of unnecessary confusion.
So I believe she's answered that question. Can you go on to your next one?
Oh, yeah, you know what? That's all my questions for now. I mean, like, I'll wait for, I guess, the other answers to those questions that I submitted last month.
Thank you.
And yeah, just to be clear, I guess I'm certainly not questioning or second guessing the experts. I am actually just taking, and you know what? I don't doubt that the consultants that have been hired by Wheatland Housing are doing a good job for Wheatland Housing and are putting forward factually based and accurate information. I mean, like, I'm not questioning that. I am trying to figure out, I mean, like, to be clear, those consultants are not hired to protect the taxpayers and the pocketbook of the taxpayers of the town of Strathmore, to even be interested in the implications for the taxpayers of the town of Strathmore. And that's what I feel my job is to be
Councillor Montgomery, you just said that you were good with them, and then in the next breath you're contradicting that by saying that they're not acting in the best interests of the community, and you are. So the two don't mesh, in my view.
If I can make it more clear, what I'm saying is that they're hired to help build a lodge for Wheatland Housing. They are not hired to make sure that the taxpayer who is stretched to the limit is not going to have their taxes go up above a certain point that is not sustainable for them. So I'm saying that the consultant is doing a good job for Wheatland Housing. It's fiduciary duty, as we've kind of all learned about. They have the Wheatland Housing hat on. They have their business hat on. They aren't wearing a councillor for the town of Strathmore hat, which I am, and that's why I am concerned about things like budget implications for the town of Strathmore and what effect that might have going forward for the town of Strathmore and for the residents that are paying.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other
you.
questions?
No, not at this time. And thank you very much, Councillor Peterson. I appreciate you answering the questions that you have.
Thank you. We move now to 10.3 question and answer period. 10.4 administrative inquiries. 10.5 notices of motion. 10.5.1 racial equality review. Councillor Montgomery.
Oh, yeah, I'm not prepared to put forward this motion tonight, unfortunately. And I think we're approaching, I guess we're good till 10:40, but yeah, I won't be putting that forward tonight. Thank you.
If I could just ask administration really quickly, it is on our agenda, so if we don't want to address it tonight, would we need a motion to withdraw or delete, something like that?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship and Council. Just for clarification, is there a desire to withdraw the motion tonight or defer it, or what were you thinking, Councillor Montgomery?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, I guess, what the best way to handle it is, but yeah, I'm just not prepared to address it tonight. So as I said, I can send administration an email, I guess, for when I'm prepared to do that.
I'm prepared to bring the notice of motion forward. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship Council. Councilor Montgomery, would you consider making a motion to defer this item to a future council meeting?
No, I'd rather not. Thank you, though.
So what's he doing? I don't understand.
We don't think another counselor can move it, but if, you know, there has to be something tonight, a deferral or a withdrawal.
Okay.
Oh, so how does it work if there's a withdrawal? I mean, like, there hasn't been a motion put forward at this point, so I don't know how that would work.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. So a notice was given for this notice of motion at a previous council meeting, and then I believe on June 5th, council deferred the consideration of this motion to today's meeting.
So following that, Jonathan, what would be the next step then?
Ultimately, it would be up to council. Would you guys like to defer this motion again to another meeting, or would you guys like to withdraw this motion?
My own feeling is we've talked about this, we've had workshops about this. It would be nice to finally make a decision. We had a lot of discussion, a lot of work on this in the past. Councillor Langmaid, then Councillor Peterson.
I just want a little bit of procedural clarification, because no motion has been presented tonight. Would this not be an amendment to the agenda to remove it? And then ideally, it would include a date of deferral, but could we not just amend the agenda to remove it?
Thank you, Worship and Council. But you would need to defer this motion again because as it was on this agenda, so we just need some clarity for administration and when it would be brought back.
Gotcha, thank you.
Question for clarification. So to administration, so if we voted, or if there was a motion to defer or to remove it, and that was defeated, then what happens?
Ultimately, it'd be up to council whether or not you could remove this from the agenda as per Councillor Langmaid's conversation. Council can discuss this further, how you would like to proceed, whether you want to delete it from the agenda today. Ideally, you would provide administration with some clarity about when you would want that brought back, which would be that pretty much a motion to defer this motion. Ultimately, it would be up to council's decision on how you'd like to proceed with this.
I'm still confused a bit because if the motion to defer was defeated, then what happens to this potential motion?
This should be dealt with in some capacity tonight, whether it be to defer it or to defeat it, remove from the agenda, and pretty much a motion to say that you're not going to consider this motion going forward. That is an opportunity for council to do. It should be.
If it's easier, I can just make the motion.
Okay.
Sorry, just hold on 2 seconds here. Okay. Okay, I will move that council direct administration to review their current systems, policies, and practices to ensure that the town of Strathmore will not consider, inquire about, or use an individual's race, ethnicity, cultural background, or color to determine eligibility for services or grants, or in the provision of services and grants, or the charging and collection of fees.
And did you want to speak to that motion?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, I personally think that everybody should be treated equally regardless of what their skin color is or their skin tone or
do you get them to the point where they are of equal treatment unless you do help them to achieve? So I would be concerned that I wouldn't be able to work with CAO Scoble or FCSS to help the Ukrainian family based on their ethnicity. So it would kind of stymie us, I believe, from doing things to help people who are in a downtrodden or in a less than equal situation. That's my feeling on this. Councillor Wegener?
I have looked at this motion several times. The way it reads, I don't have a real reason to believe it's not harmful, but I don't trust, I don't get that warm and fuzzy feeling from the motion. I feel that there's motives there. So if this motion passes, we have the Siksika flag out front. Does that come down? Would our town staff be able to help the Filipino community with their Independence Day by helping with the table set and chairs? Groups such as the Strathmore Skate Girls or Skatemore Girls, the Christian A. Young Man Society, because of cultural background, race, choices. Would we be able to help local doctors offset the cost of bringing in foreign doctors? Those are some of my fears that if this goes through, those are some of my fears that would happen.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wiley?
Yeah, when I read it, I just see the parallels between it and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, so I can't see there being a problem. All the examples that have been given against it are just examples about how you would help somebody that's downtrodden or how you would help a user group. The motion just says you wouldn't help them based on their race. It has nothing to do with helping a user group or helping somebody that needs help. So I'm planning to support it tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson, then Councillor Lang.
I would just really like answers to Councillor Wagner's questions from Councillor Montgomery. I'd really like answers to those questions. What would happen in those cases? I think it's really interesting.
Oh, yeah, I'd be happy to answer that. I'm under the impression that, like those are I'm under the impression we aren't specifically helping those groups because of their race, right? Like with the Filipino community, we're not saying, yeah, we're going to help you because you guys have, a certain skin tone, or we'll help you because you are Filipino and we won't help, those Japanese people over there, or we're not going to help those. So that's, I guess, to answer the question about like the ethnicity and the cultural background. If we aren't taking the tack that we're saying we won't help people because of their ethnicity, or we won't help people because of their cultural background or their race, then we don't need to consider those things. Because, if we're helping people, we should be helping them because it's, the right thing to do for just any person without even seeing what their skin looks like. So if some group calls up and says, hey, we want some picnic tables, obviously we're not going to be saying, well, what color is your skin, or what country, do you hail from, or something like that. Well, the country's not even mentioned here, but ethnicity, it's like, if
it's not answering the question, Councillor Montgomery.
Oh, sorry. Could you maybe rephrase the question so I understand it better?
I'll try. So sitting around this council table, I've shared lots of data and research and personal experience that demonstrate my support of the Siksika Nation based on their race, based on their history, and based on their experience. Through all of that, we have a healing garden outside our town office that speaks to truth and reconciliation based on the history of a given people and what happened to them, whether you characterize it as race, color, whatever, it is the people of Siksika. And we fly their flag in the interest of truth and reconciliation. Treaty 7 and Siksika flags are behind us here in this council chamber. I think the question that Councillor Wagner asked was, will that still happen?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Like, there's nothing stopping the town from helping people, or.
But we've used an individual's race, Councillor Montgomery. We have definitively utilized our understanding, our data, research, evidence, and personal experience that demonstrate the benefits of diversity, equity, and inclusion in moving forward to truth and reconciliation, in direct opposition to the motion that you have on the table?
Yeah, so I believe in helping people that need help.
That's not an answer to the question, Councillor Montgomery. The question is really simple. The question is simple. Will the flag still be here? Will the healing guarding still be there? Will we still work towards truth and reconciliation based on our Siksika partners, on their race and their history? So then your motion is not correct.
Not based on their race. No, I don't know about. I'm not going to speak for you. Okay, like if you want to do it because of their race or the color of their skin, that's your choice. You know, I worked with Siksika because they're our neighbors, and because that's basically it. Because they're our regional neighbors, and so I'm interested in working with any regional neighbor without regard for what their skin looks like or you know, what their
so then you are speaking in opposition to your own motion, is that correct? Because I'm not clear, Councillor Montgomery.
Maybe.
Are you supporting the
I
Siksika
don't know.
Nation as the Siksika people because they are Siksika and because of the data, the information and the evidence and the research that we have based on what has happened to them through the residential history and their generational trauma, and based on who they are as a people, therefore as a race? It is definitive, Councillor Montgomery. Our truth and reconciliation actions around this table have been very definitive. So are you in favor of that or not?
As I said, I just believe all people should be treated equally and the same without regard for their race. So if somebody's poor and needs help, it shouldn't matter.
It's not an answer to the question, Councillor Montgomery.
Skin tone is you know, light brown or dark brown or you know, whatever skin tone I have, pink, I guess. It shouldn't matter. We should be helping people that need help. And
it's not an answer to the question. It's not an answer to the question, Councillor Montgomery.
Well, I think I have answered your question. I don't see why we would remove a healing garden, because that has nothing to do with administration considering or inquiring about an individual's race. This is talking about individuals. It's not talking about groups of people. It's talking about individuals. It's saying that
when you say an individual's race, but Councillor Montgomery, in your motion it says ethnicity, cultural background, color.
Yeah.
May I make a comment?
So I think that does speak to race and to people.
Okay. Yeah, I have Councillor Langmaid and then Deputy Mayor Wiley.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two big concerns with this resolution as it's been brought forward to us today. Equality rights are covered under Section 15 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada, which also includes, in addition to ethnicity, race, cultural background, or color, it also includes religion, sex, age, or mental or physical disability. And I'm very confused as to why this motion only points out race, ethnicity, and cultural origin and doesn't concern itself with other protected grounds under Section 15 of the Charter. My second concern is in regards to subsection 2, so 15.2 of the Charter, which specifically calls out that subsection 1 that outlines race, national or ethnic origin, etc., states this: subsection 1 does not preclude any law, program, or activity that has at its object the amelioration of conditions of disadvantaged individuals or groups, including those that are disadvantaged because of race, national, ethnic origin, color, religion, sex, age, or mental or physical disability. What that says to me is that under the Charter, there is specifically a section that allows organizations to put these programs in place. So I have a very strong concern that under that subsection of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, we could have a charter challenge on this. That we are denying programs that are protected under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
I can answer
I think
that if
this
you'd
was,
like.
no, I'm sorry, this is a comment. This is not a question for you, Councillor Montgomery. I think this was poorly thought out. I think this is racist. And I think it's a terrible motion to put forward.
Oh. So not judging people on their races. Don't get me wrong. I understand that's where we're heading now as a society. We're not judging somebody.
I
based on their
wasn't
race
actually
who's considered
asking for your
racist.
input, Councillor Montgomery, and you were not called on by the chair.
Oh, okay, I'm
I
sorry.
provided
I
this
thought you were
feedback
supposed
to you
speak.
in
I
email
have-
form
I have
when you first brought this motion forward. You did not take it. So I get to bring it up now.
Feedback.
I have Deputy Mayor Wiley next, but I do have a question for CAO Scoble. Based on this motion that Councillor Montgomery's put forward, do you envision seeking legal help and costs to if this motion passed?
Yes, I do. I would recommend to council, if you want to consider this further, they would get legal opinion from a lawyer with expertise in the charter before moving ahead with it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wiley?
Sure. I'm totally persuaded by Councillor Langmaid and Councillor Peterson. It is a charter violation. The charter says you cannot discriminate based on those things. The charter also very specifically outlines collective rights groups like Anglophones, Francophones, Indigenous, Métis, First, and Inuit. So upon further reflection, it's an all-around bad idea. I think we should probably just call the question. It's getting very late at night and I can't see it.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree. So I will call the question.
I'd like to say something else, please.
Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. So I think there's certain hills to die on, I guess, and had I been alive 100 years ago and sitting in Parliament of Canada, I would hope that I'd be one of those people that would have stood up and said, you know what, no, it's wrong. It's wrong to take Indigenous people, from their homes and to take them from their families, and think that we know better. We can re-educate these people and we can decide what's best for them. And based on their skin tone or their race, I guess it'd be their race, if that's a thing. We've decided that their race is not kind of what we think it should be. So I would be one of those people that'd be arguing against that. And I'm not saying you guys would be arguing for it. I'm just pointing out that I would hope I'd be one of those people that'd be arguing against it. And as I said, this is a hill to die on. When I face my kids, for instance, when I look at my sons and and I think about what I want to set my kids up for failure, or what I want to help facilitate a system that unnecessarily impedes or harms people based on their race or their gender or their sexual orientation or anything like that. And just so that people in the public are aware of where things are at. I mean, if it's not already clear, there's even lending institutions now that actually will give people different rates, interest rates, based on things like their race or their gender or their sexual orientation. And I'd be surprised, I guess, if anybody on this council who has, I hate using the term, to be honest, but white grandkids or kids, I would be surprised if any of you guys would, look at them and say, you know what, because of the color of your skin, you deserve to have the deck stacked against you. It was wrong. It was wrong when people stacked the deck against people in the past because of their race. Okay. And it would be wrong to do it going forward. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, it's like, so the federal government came up with something, who cares? They also put people in residential schools for decades. So I don't think we should necessarily point to what the federal government says as like some sort of, compass for truth and right. And just to point out as well, of course, I'm not a legal scholar, but the section 15.2 of the charter does allow for different organizations to discriminate in order to make up for historic wrongs, I guess you could say. It doesn't obligate them to, it just allows them to, which but anyways, as I said, this is a hill to die on, and I guess that's why I'm bringing it forward. And but anyways, let's call the vote.
I would offer that you're interpreting what helping a minority would be as far as discriminating against others. That's your interpretation of it.
Well, you know, help all the people that that need help. And usually we
Yep.
gauge that based on like somebody's financial status or
Yep.
their you know their financial ability, let's say. Which I mean, like obviously, you know, it's like, you know, should a person who has light skin, you know, and is poor, be kind of overlooked for somebody who has like, you know, not light skin, but they're, you know, felt well off? Obviously not, but that is essentially what the implications are of using somebody's race or skin tone to determine what.
You're absolutely right. I think you said we should call the question, Councillor Montgomery,
Sure.
so I don't
Yep.
think we're getting anywhere. I will call the question. All in favor of the motion? Opposed?
Nay.
So you voted against your motion? Is that clear? Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Like I said, it's a hill to die on. So
And you didn't die on it.
no.
11,
Not this time.
correspondence. Do we have any correspondence tonight? None? And now we have a motion to go in camera? Oh, we need a motion to extend the meeting. Councillor Wegener.
I move that we extend tonight's meeting until midnight.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Mayor,
You've all heard the motion? Oh,
sorry, perhaps you may want to consider an amendment. Do you want to continue with the in-camera or not? Administration can pass on the in-camera.
okay, would you like an amendment to your motion that we
Yeah.
pass on the in-camera?
I'll take that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, Jonathan, do you have that? The motion
I
is to
don't-
extend
Sorry, I
until...
don't understand. What does that mean, pass on the in-camera?
I think the idea is that we wouldn't do the two in-camera items, but we would adjourn the meeting and go into the workshop.
For clarity, and I appreciate the question, perhaps the advocacy item should be deferred to next week.
Does that help, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, so we're going to adjourn the meeting and then have the workshop.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Councillor Langmaid?
I was going to offer alternative wording for the motion, but it sounds like everyone understands what's on the floor right now, so I'll withhold that.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Sorry,
Oh,
sorry, Your Worship.
Jonathan.
Just to clarify, the motion that council's voting on is to defer the advocacy discussion to next week. Well, and extend the meeting to, I mean, for 5 minutes if you're going to adjourn the meeting right after this anyways, because that was the last couple items on the agenda. Yeah.
I think we need to make sure Deputy Mayor Wiley and Councillor Montgomery hear that.
Oh, sorry, I'll
Councillor.
say that again with the microphone on. My apologies. I think what we're looking to do right now, just to move forward, is I move that we defer item 12.1, advocacy strategy discussion, advice from officials, FOIP section 24(1)A, to the committee of the whole meeting on July 10th, 2024. And that the agenda be amended to remove item 12.2, Council CAO dialogue, advice from officials, FOIP section 24(1)BI.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on that motion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And I will adjourn the meet, or do we need, we don't.